Imagine clicking hire on a remote IT candidate, someone really skilled. What if that click inadvertently channeled funds directly into North Korea's weapons program?
Yeah, it's it's a pretty chilling thought, isn't it?
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this unsettling reality today.
Absolutely. What's particularly striking about North Korea's deployment of IT workers isn't just the sheer number, though that's big. It's the calculated and, frankly, adaptable nature of this whole revenue-generating operation.
Right. This isn't just a few isolated scams.
No, far from it. We're really looking beyond just isolated cases of deception here. This is a state-orchestrated effort. We're talking thousands of people globally.
Okay.
So our deep dive today aims to dissect this threat, really understand its wide-ranging impact, and crucially, equip you listening with actionable strategies, ways to protect yourself and your organization.
And we've got some solid info to work with.
Yes, we've compiled information from U.S. government advisories, some really in-depth cybersecurity analyses, and even some, well, pretty revealing firsthand accounts to give a full picture.
Great. So let's start at the beginning. At its core, what's the problem we're really facing here?
Well, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the DPRK, is strategically dispatching highly skilled IT workers across the globe. The goal, to secure remote employment.
And why are they doing this?
It's direct, generate a substantial flow of revenue. And that revenue fuels their weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missile programs. Plain and simple.
Which is obviously a huge violation of sanctions.
A direct violation of multiple UN sanctions, yes.
Yeah.
And the scale of this operation, it's significant, and honestly, it seems to be growing.
And we're not talking about people with just basic tech skills, are we? These are skilled individuals.
Oh, far from basic. We're talking about individuals with really advanced capabilities, things critical to today's digital economy, like mobile and web app development, building and maintaining virtual currency platforms, even expertise in new stuff like artificial intelligence. They're basically capitalizing on the global demand for top IT talent.
And the deception part is key here.
Absolutely key. What makes this particularly challenging is their sophisticated and consistent effort to hide their nationality. They routinely pretend to be South Korean, Chinese, Japanese, sometimes Eastern European, or even U.S.-based workers.
That level of sustained deception, it's kind of hard to grasp.
It is quite extensive. You've got thousands of these DPRK IT workers operating overseas, mainly China and Russia, but also, smaller numbers in Africa, Southeast Asia.
Right.
And some are even working remotely from within North Korea itself.
Yeah.
And the leadership in Pyongyang, Kim Jong-un included, they fully recognize how critical these workers are. It's a vital source of foreign currency.
So this has top-level backing. It's not some rogue operation.
No, definitely not. This has top-level support, top-level direction.
And who actually gets the money they earn? Where does it flow?
The primary beneficiaries are organizations under the Munitions Industry Department, or MENDI.
NIDI.
Okay. That's the central body overseeing North Korea's entire weapons program. R&D, production, conventional weapons, the prohibited stuff like nuclear devices, ballistic missiles, all of it.
Wow.
Also, the Ministry of Atomic Energy Industry, key for their nuclear goals, and various military branches get funds. Even entities you wouldn't expect, like the DPRK Education Commission's Foreign Trade Office, have been linked to this.
So hiring one of these workers, even by mistake,
means a significant chunk of their wages is directly funding these, well, illicit and dangerous activities.
That really puts it into perspective. What kind of money are we actually talking about here? What's the financial reward for North Korea?
It's considerable. A DPRK IT worker abroad can earn like upwards of 10 times what a typical North Korean laborer makes.
10 times.
Yeah. We're seeing cases where individuals might earn over $300,000 a year, and teams can potentially bring in as much as $3 million annually.
$3 million from one team?
Potentially, yes. And a huge portion of that, maybe 70, even up to 90%, goes straight back to the DPRK regime.
Which explains why they invest so much in IT education then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It underscores why they've made these significant investments. They have a highly competitive education system, top universities like Kim Il-sung University, Kim Chaek University of Technology. They're churning out skilled IT professionals.
So they're skilled, they're incentivized. How do they actually land these remote jobs?
Well, the main way seems to be through online freelance platforms. They just bid on projects advertised there like any other freelancer would.
Just lending in.
Right. But sometimes they go further. They've set up their own shell companies using non-DPRK nationals as like figureheads to seem legit.
Uh-huh.
They're also known to collaborate, sometimes unknowingly, with non-North Korean freelancers to get access to projects, maybe get help with payment processing. And often, these teams will have members fluent in English or Chinese to handle client communication.
It sounds incredibly organized, really adaptable. Okay, so we understand the problem, the what, and the how they get in. Let's shift to the impact. What are the actual risks, the consequences for companies that unknowingly hire these people?
The risks are substantial, and they hit several critical areas. First off, you've got the very real, very severe legal trouble.
Yeah.
Violating U.S. and UN sanctions.
Right, the legal hammer.
Exactly. That can mean being put on sanctions lists yourself, massive fines, even criminal charges for individuals involved. It's serious.
And beyond the direct legal stuff.
Yeah, the reputational damage can be devastating. Really hard to recover from that kind of news. Then there's the direct threat of theft, intellectual property, sensitive data, funds, including cryptocurrency, which they're known to target.
So they could steal from the company that hired them.
Absolutely. Their access as a supposed trusted contractor can be exploited for all sorts of malicious cyber activity, enabling network intrusion, selling stolen data, laundering money. We've even seen documented cases where they run extortion campaigns, threatening to leak stolen data unless the company pays up.
That's nasty.
And there's the insidious risk of them planting backdoors or malicious code into software projects, creating vulnerabilities that might not be found for ages. And ultimately, by hiring them, companies are, often without realizing it, directly funding North Korea's weapons programs.
It's a minefield of risks. Are there broader consequences, too, beyond just the companies?
Yes, absolutely. There's a significant human rights angle here we can't ignore.
Okay.
Credible reports consistently show that DPRK IT workers overseas are often subjected to conditions that really amount to forced labor.
What does that look like?
Excessively long hours, constant surveillance by government minders, severely restricted movement, often living in poor, unsafe conditions. And like we said, the vast majority of their earnings, maybe 70 to 90%, is confiscated by the government.
So the workers themselves see very little of that $300,000 figure.
Very little. And this whole system generates hundreds of millions, maybe even billions, annually for the regime. It's not just sanctions evasion. There's a real human cost.
Hundreds of millions, potentially billions. That's the scale we're talking about.
That's the current estimate, yes. And this threat isn't standing still. It's evolving.
How so?
Well, initially, they seemed really focused on cryptocurrency firms. But now, they're broadening their targets. Fintech, AI, various industries. And we're seeing a noticeable increase in efforts targeting European markets, possibly as U.S. enforcement ramps up.
So they adapt.
They adapt. And you also have to consider the national security side beyond just the money. These operations could potentially be used for espionage, gaining access to sensitive information, maybe facilitating other cyber attacks. It's multifaceted.
Okay, this paints a very clear, very concerning picture, a serious, evolving threat with huge ramifications. So the crucial part, what can individuals, what can organizations actually do to protect themselves? Let's dig into the solutions and mitigation measures.
Right. Let's start with the freelance work and payment platforms themselves. They really need a robust, multi-layered approach to identity verification.
More than just checking an ID scan.
Oh, yeah. Rigorously verifying submitted documents, maybe even working with law enforcement to confirm authenticity. Platforms need to be really suspicious of low-quality images, blurry IDs, and they should independently check if websites' freelancers list actually exist and are legit.
What else can platforms do?
Requiring mandatory video verification or live interviews, that adds a big layer of security. Using technical tools like port checking to spot remote access software, VPNs being used suspiciously.
Trying to see if they're hiding their location.
Exactly. And developing algorithms to automatically flag suspicious patterns, like multiple logins from weirdly diverse locations quickly, the same documents used for different accounts, or unusually high ratings from just one or two clients.
Makes sense, like pattern recognition.
Precisely. And maybe implementing waiting periods and extra scrutiny for brand new accounts. That could help too.
Okay, that covers the platforms. What about the companies doing the hiring? The ones looking for remote developers or other IT folks?
Companies really need to step up their remote hiring game. Mandate video interviews for all candidates. Conduct thorough pre-employment background checks, maybe even drug tests, or collecting biometric data where that's legal and appropriate.
And checking references isn't enough.
You have to verify employment and education history directly. Contact the institutions using contact info you find yourself, not just what the candidate gives you.
Good point. Don't trust, verify.
Exactly. Hiring managers need to be meticulous. Look for inconsistencies across all their online profiles, resumes, everything they provide. Be super cautious if someone has almost no online footprint or insists on communicating off-platform, like on personal messaging apps.
What about company equipment, like laptops?
Huge red flag area. Only ship equipment to verified physical addresses. Any request to send it somewhere else, treat that as highly suspicious. They might use these laptop farms managed by others. Also, watch out for tiny, unauthorized financial transactions on employee accounts. Sometimes they test access that way. Keep detailed records of everything. Interviews, communications, definitely record video interviews.
Technical controls seem important too.
Essential. Things like disabling remote desktop protocol, unless absolutely necessary, and actively monitoring for its use. Require signature confirmation for equipment delivery. Use geolocation tracking on company laptops if possible. Mandate that workers disable commercial VPNs when using company devices.
So lock things down.
Pretty much. And adopt zero-trust security principles. Basically, verify everyone and everything trying to access your network. Don't trust implicitly. Implement strict need-to-know access policies. Limit what people can see and do.
It sounds like using reputable freelance platforms helps too.
Definitely. Use platforms known for strong verification. Be wary of recruiting directly from online IT competitions without extra vetting. And don't be afraid to ask for notarized proofs of identity or have them hold up their actual ID during a video call for verification.
That's a really solid list for hiring practices. Are there any sort of overarching pieces of advice for organizations as a whole, general best practices?
Yeah, a few key things. First, update your internal hiring policies. Make sure they specifically address these remote hiring risks. And train all employees, especially HR and hiring managers, on how to spot fake profiles or suspicious signs.
Awareness is key.
Absolutely. Where practical, maybe require at least one in-person meeting with ID checks early on. Mandate cameras on during work sessions. It's a deterrent. Check VoIP phone numbers they provide for authenticity.
Use specialized background checks.
Consider services designed specifically to detect fraudulent applications, yes. Implement robust device monitoring for unusual activity, unexpected remote logins. Ask tough, specific, knowledge-based questions in interviews that are hard to quickly Google.
Good idea.
Lock down access on new devices initially. Monitor activity against expected work hours. Weird times might be a flag. Maybe randomly ask employees to turn on cameras during the day.
And if you do suspect something,
report it immediately. FBI, relevant law enforcement. Don't sit on it. Look into using E-Verify for identity checks if applicable in your region.
Okay.
And reinforce those technical safeguards. Disable remote desktop, check for open ports, deploy insider threat monitoring, and finally, regular security awareness training for everyone. Build that security-conscious culture.
So it really boils down to a mix of vigilance, robust verification, and ongoing technical security measures.
Precisely. The North Korean IT worker threat, it's a significant, constantly shifting challenge. It has serious financial security and legal implications for anyone hiring remotely.
So individuals, organizations, you really need to stay alert.
Yes, maintain vigilance and proactively implement these kinds of mitigation strategies we've been talking about. And reporting suspicious activity that's critical for disrupting these operations too.
This has been incredibly informative and frankly, quite concerning. A deep dive into a very sophisticated threat. It really makes you think, given the ingenuity here, what other unexpected threats might be lurking out there in our digital world?
It's a valid question.
It's definitely a strong reminder, isn't it? About the importance of always exploring cybersecurity best practices, staying informed about what new dangers are emerging.
Indeed. And just as a final note, for anyone listening who might actually have information about these illicit DPRK cyber activities, it's worth knowing the U.S. State Department's Rewards for Justice program offers significant financial rewards for information that helps disrupt them.
Right. It highlights that tackling this needs a collective effort.
Exactly. A collective, informed effort is really essential to safeguard our digital security going forward.